Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show here in Dexter, Oregon, down at Lost Creek here with a tremendous author and original Merry Prankster, Ken Babbs. Welcome.
Well, hello there. How nice to talk to you all again.
Can you talk about the story you told about Hunter S. Thompson when he said, "Go get Babbs," because they locked him in the hotel room to finish his story, and he wanted some marijuana, and they said, "Well, where can we get it?" He goes, "Call Babbs."
Yes, that happened.
Yeah, can you talk about Hunter? Like Hunter, you were tight with Hunter.
Yes, he became a real good friend with us because, for one thing, we liked him a lot. He liked us a lot. And he's an amazing, wonderful guy. And his writing is sorely missed now in these days. He would be at all his glory to be able to write about the things that are happening. At that time, he had done a story for this magazine called Running Magazine that was based in Eugene, and it was about the Hawaii Marathon. And so he had this story, and they had a deadline, but he couldn't get it done. So they flew him to Eugene and took him in this motel room, and they locked him in there, and they wouldn't let him out until he finished. And he did that. He said, "Well, I need marijuana." He says, "Get Babbs to bring me some marijuana." And so they called me up, and so I went out and scored him some pot and went to the door and said, "Well, they wouldn't even let me in. They just cracked the door on that chain, and they made me pass the marijuana in there and gave me the money for it." And so I found out that he had locked himself in the bathroom, and he wasn't going to come out until he had his medicine. And so they said, "It's here, it's here." And he says, "Okay." And he opened the door, and he threw out a package of firecrackers lit, and they fired out all over the place, and they were all doing the Mexican foot dance, the Mexican boot strap. And he was laughing like mad. And so, but he did finish the story, and then he was done, and so we met him at the Vets Club, this bar, veterans building in Eugene, and we're in there talking to him, and he was all dressed up in his whites and his long cigarette holder and everything, and looked really sharp, his shorts, long socks and sneakers, all white. And so we were leaving. He had to catch the plane, and so Kesey and I were there in Kesey's Cadillac. And Kesey, he goes down on the floor of the Cadillac. He was driving, and he says, "Call him over here." He says, "Get him over here." And I said, "Hey, Hunter," I yelled at him. He was about to get in his car. I says, "Come here, man. Tell us again, when is your plane leaving?" And he comes running over there. And Kesey reaches up and he throws these lit firecrackers out. And there was Hunter S. Thompson doing the Mexican boot dance, dancing. What do they call that, where they shoot them with the guns?
Mexican hat dance?
Not the hat dance. There's another kind of dance, the bullet dance or something like that.
Yeah, no. So Kesey, but can you talk about? I think it's just instructive how Hunter would disarm and bust up the political class at that time. How he was so effective at it. I think it's
Hunter Thompson could always puncture the pompous balloons of know-it-all and bullshit and show it for what it was and do it in such a way that it made them seem like clowns and fools. He was very barbed in his writing. I don't know, you must have read his books. I mean, able to do that.
Sure.
You know who he was like? Who was the guy back in the day, the most famous comedian talker like that? I can't remember his name. Not Buster Keaton. Some guy. Oh well.
Is there a way for you to talk about a guy that he disarmed, or something that sticks out in your head as what he did that was brilliant, and he burst the bubble? What Hunter did?
Well, no, I can't because I was never around him when he did anything like that.
Right. I wanted you to talk a little bit about the spontaneity. We didn't touch on that originally. The of you and Kesey at Stanford and how that lent itself. I mean, you mentioned to me, we just had lunch. You mentioned to me that you were ultimately testing to see if this stuff, if there's any commodity to it, if it was sellable, this kind of stuff you were doing. But it was all spontaneous. It was all off the top of your head.
Well, that was the thing about it, is that we were both good about making stuff up on the spot. Akizi was the best. I mean, he was absolute genius at it. But I was able to fill in a lot. And we would do that into the tape recorder, but you can't tell when you're doing it how good it is, but we would listen to it. Because at that time, we were thinking, when we first started doing it, in terms of writing. Can this stuff be then transposed and sell as a book? We realized we had a talent, but I'll tell you, we were really not brought up to speed in that respect until we had Neil Cassidy with us, who is the absolute master at talking. And he doesn't always make stuff up, but he's able to talk about everything that's happened in his life and all the people in that, and weave them into long, convoluted stories that always had a kind of a moral to them. You know, as going wrong this turn, set up for that. You never eat when you're angry. Nobody was ever happy angry. Stuff like that. He was unbelievable. And so luckily on the bus trip in 1964 with Neil driving, and the sound setup, we all had microphones and speakers going, so you would hear us all talking, and we'd be able to talk to one another. And so we were all able to talk and tell and rap at the same time. Now that whole thing about can it be sold, is it worth anything, or are we just wasting our time, came about when we would lie on the floor all night long with tape recorder going and microphones making up stories, actual long novels, playing all the characters and making up the dialogue and everything, and then listen to it and trying to decide if this is any good or not. And it actually was pretty good, but it was raw, really raw. And nobody in the background. There were no cheerleaders saying raw, raw, raw.